Peyton Robert Siva Jr., born October 24th, 1990. Today's feature is another down the lines of the Louisville Stunted Growth series and probably my favorite Cardinal of them all. Was he the best? No, not on paper. But I have so much respect for his story and what he was able to make of himself coming from the background he has, and his work ethic coming from not being the most athletic to doing dunks. Honestly, I'm a little jealous of, no lie. He's listed at 6 foot, but I think he's closer to 5'11". But the height never stopped him from winning on every level as an amateur. With the name he came into Louisville with and the popularity he built as a Cardinal, so many expected his NBA career to last at least more than just 24 games. Why didn't that happen? Let's get into it. Salute to my man Scott Lewis for this request. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth. Get him, man.
Being tough, that's one reason why I went to the Big East and wanted to play for Louisville, because they're known for their defense, and the Big East is known for toughness. So, being that West Coast guy, they always get the reputation of, some people try to call them soft. So I want to go out to the East Coast and really show.
What would you say are some things in basketball that can get you drafted other than pure skills? For me, a player's intangibles can stand out just as much as their athletic ability. Things like motor, toughness, charisma, effort, how teammates respond and respect them. I can always tell when a guy has a certain it about him that's going to enhance any locker room he enters. My favorite of them being toughness. And no, it's not always shown in a Montrezl Harrell sort of grime and gritty way. It's also shown in guys like Peyton Siva, who you barely see say a word. But when he's coming at his defenders, you can tell he wants to run right through them if they don't let him get by. I love that about his game. But it's easy to become tough when you see your mom work 3 jobs to support a family basically by herself. It's easy to become tough when at 13 you take mom's car, spin the block looking for your troubled father, only to find him with a gun in his hand ready to off himself until you talk him out of it with a shirt full of tears and with words filled with comfort and reassurance. You can do it, Dad. I believe in you. I need you. How many 13-year-olds have had to do anything close to that? That's tough. It's easy to become tough when you're 5'9", 5'10", 140 pounds, want to play football, but keep getting denied because you aren't big enough. Yeah, for Peyton Siva, it was easy being tough. And as we'll see later, that tough intangible would be tested a few more times throughout his career. Stunt number 1, elite. Having a player with the intangibles mentioned earlier is a great thing for a GM, coach, or franchise. But along with those intangibles, you hope that same player possesses a few elite skills that can warrant you giving an opportunity so many basketball players each year are after. In my opinion, Peyton Siva didn't show or doesn't have the elite skills needed to keep a spot at the NBA level. While he's a great leader, a very savvy and heady point guard, he hasn't shown at any level that he can score with the best of them, or assist with the best of them, or has the athleticism like speed, quickness, deception, leaping ability with the best of them. Not saying he doesn't possess those things somewhere deep inside, and maybe the system he's been in didn't allow him to display those things, but as far as I know, we haven't seen it. In high school in Seattle, Peyton, as a freshman, won his first of 2 state championships. He averaged 13 points a game. By his senior season, he was averaging 18 points a game, 5 assists a game, and 2 steals. Although not elite numbers, he was still named Mr. Basketball for the state of Washington, AP Washington Player of the Year, and was a McDonald's All-American. He finished as a 4-star recruit and chose Louisville over Arizona, Kansas, and Washington. He also won another state title as a senior. At this point, what I liked about his game was that he just won. He didn't wow you with breakneck speed or world-class shooting, although his hops in high school were extremely underrated, but he simply just got it done. A very shifty point guard that played low to the ground and was able to run an offense exactly how a coach wanted him to. As a freshman, he sat behind senior Edgar Sosa and learned what being a high-level collegiate point guard requires. He averaged 4 points a game and 2 assists that season. Looking at Siva on paper throughout his college tenure, it jumps out at you that while he was given the opportunity from his sophomore season and on, starting every game from then, he didn't produce the numbers you'd like and expect from a smaller guard hoping to get drafted. Some would argue that him being drafted at all was a huge accomplishment for him, and I would probably agree on most days. As a sophomore, he averaged 9.9 points a game and 5 assists, and those would pretty much be his output for the next 2 seasons. Again, he did have great intangibles that you realize when watching him, but for me and maybe many GMs, coaches, and franchises, if a guy's going to stick around at that position, especially on the shorter end, he has to produce more than intangible items. Stunt number 2, shooting. Throughout his time as an amateur and his short stint in the league, Peyton just wasn't a good enough shooter. Now, don't get me wrong, he wasn't a terrible shooter, because I actually think he had a really textbook stroke, but for some reason, his production didn't always account for what you saw. Besides his freshman season where he played just 11 minutes a game and attempted just 1 3 a game, he shot in the 20s from 3 for 3 straight years. It's hard to argue for a guy you like when the numbers are screaming that you have no argument. He finished his career at Louisville shooting 29% from 3, along with not great shooting numbers from the foul line as well beside his senior year, where he was pretty good. For a guy that doesn't score in a ton of other ways, doesn't distribute on an elite level, and isn't big enough to defend other elite guards, it'll be hard justifying paying a guy top dollar and affording him opportunities others behind him are better fit for. Take a guy like Isaiah Thomas, for example. The perfect example in this case, actually. The reason he was able to give himself the opportunities he had before the injury is because he was elite. He could score with anyone and was second in the league in his best year. And he's smaller than Siva. He also averaged more than 6 assists in his best years as a pro. Beyond that, he was a solid 3-point shooter that kept the defense honest, which opened up lanes for his penetration. For Siva, him not being able to shoot well enough on paper makes scouting him very easy and makes him a luxury piece that's not always needed on an NBA roster. That isn't saying that he can't go elsewhere and have success, but if we're talking about the league, you'd have to be a better shooter than what he's shown. In his 24 NBA games, he shot 28% from 3, attempting 1 a game.
I've been shooting better in the drills, so you shoot that I'm becoming a more consistent shooter, and those guys get paid to score the ball and shoot the ball, and it makes my job a lot easier just finding them.
Stunt number 3, opportunity. Siva's third stunt could be looked at as a direct result of stunts 1 and 2. Because he wasn't of elite size and had the elite skills necessary along with not proving he could shoot better, he didn't get the opportunity that could have helped him have a longer career as an NBA pro. After winning the national championship as a senior at Louisville, Siva was selected 56 overall by the Detroit Pistons in the NBA draft. After the production he'd shown in college, it was likely he would end up a second-round pick and have an uphill battle to face. Being drafted in the second round, especially at the end of it, has no guarantees and very limited opportunity. Being drafted to a team like the Pistons in 2013-14 was also going to put a strain on Siva having to battle the guards they already had for minutes, all while not being the ideal fit at point guard. Chauncey Billups, Will Bynum, Brandon Jennings when Jennings was still a productive player, and even Rodney Stuckey were all in front of him at his position. Siva had very little chance to show his intangibles of leadership, running a team, and IQ could overcome his deficiencies. He would spend most of his lone season signed and re-signed to the D-League before being waived in 2014. He would sign with the Orlando Magic and was waived a month after. His future in basketball would mainly be overseas thereafter, where he's had a pretty good showing in each of his stops. He has been dealing with injuries as of late, but seems to have found a home in Germany. All in all, I have to salute Peyton for even being in a position to have a chance at the NBA, coming from what he had to endure and not developing or at least producing the numbers as an amateur to get the look he did. At this point, the NBA may be a stretch, but being able to use basketball to provide for your family will always be a positive for him. Salute to him. I wish him nothing but the best. It's your boy JC, stuntedgrowth3.com, and I'm out.